We want it open. We want it free. We don't want tolls. It's international. It's an international waterway. They're not charging tolls. Right now, there hasn't been a ship that's been able to get through without our approval. And the Navy has done an amazing job. And no ship is going to Iran, as you know. No ship is going to, or out of Iran, without our approval.
Joining me now is Stuart Livingstone-Wallace, Bloomberg's executive editor for the Middle East, North Africa, and Russia. Stuart, thanks so much for being with us. So we're hearing from Iran. They're touting some of the progress with the talks. But, of course, we are still hearing that gaps remain to some extent. What exactly do we know?
Good morning, Jen. Yeah, I mean, the short answer is we don't know exactly where those gaps are. We're hearing slightly more positive noises from the Iranians, slightly more positive noises from Marco Rubio. But in terms of the detail of the proposals that are going back and forth, it's very hard to keep up with what exactly is at the top of that list. Where are the priorities? We've always made some assumptions about what we think both sides' priorities are, and that the key to that, I suspect, at the moment is Hormuz. Probably number two is the nuclear files, and then there's a whole heap of issues behind that. We still seem to be around a framework that says let's get an initial sort of MOU, as it were, a pause in hostilities, maybe reopening Hormuz, and then we'll have a short period of time where we can discuss the other issues. Quite whether that's what will actually materialize remains to be seen, and there's no time frame here for when exactly we might get to something resembling at least a preliminary framework for a deal.
And Stuart, this discussion around a toll system seems to have really been at the front of headlines over the past few days. Iran reportedly discussing with Oman how to set up a permanent toll system. How likely are we to see this go through, especially if we consider what we heard from President Trump?
Yeah, I think it's very hard to game it out, largely because, look, this is something they've been talking about for weeks. We've seen it in various iterations. There's been various talks. You know, we understand that maybe one or two tolls have been paid. But in terms of the long term, you've got a very serious issue here in that this is, as Trump says, an international waterway, and traditionally you don't have tolls on that. And I think it would be very difficult for the international community, not least the littoral states here and, you know, the regional states, to accept that going forward they have to pay a toll to either Iran or Oman or both in order to move their goods through. Now, there is a wider implication here about, you know, accelerating this process to bypass Hormuz, but that will take a number of years to materialize. In the meantime, though, this remains, I think, one of the key sticking points. And again, for the world more widely, it is probably the single most important point in this conflict, because it's having this huge ripple effect right across economies and at every level of every economy.